Hello, hello, hello. All right. Welcome. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Hello, hello. Welcome for Around the World. While we're getting everybody in, why don't we share where everybody's coming from, where everyone's joining from right now. Be good to see where everybody's at. We have Brazil in the house. Amazing. Welcome. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. My name is Joey. I am the Morpholio Community Director, and we're really excited for this pop-up version of Quick Tips with Joey. This is going to be a really special one where we are going to take a look at the beginning stages of working in Morpholio Trace, how you start your first drawing. So this will include learning how to use the toolbars, the brush toolbar, the layer toolbar, how to set your scale, how to use your scale tools, and a little bit of project management. At the very end of the video, we'll also get into a few secret hand gestures that will make your workflow a total breeze. You're going to really love those, so be sure to check those out as well. All right, now that we have everybody, we got Atlanta, we got India, Ecuador. I have a mustache. Thank you. All right, so let's get right into it and check this out. All right, so you can see here is my screen, and when we first open Morpholio Trace, we'll just tap on it here. You can see that we're immediately brought to the project page. At the top of the project page up here is where you can start a new project. There are all different ways of starting a project. And on the bottom part is where all of your project files are located. So what we'll do is we'll tap on one of the examples here, this example plan, to take a look at what the interface is. So as you can see, we open our project. Now we are in our drawing space here. And on the left side, you can see that there's the brush toolbar. On the right are your layers. At the top are your drawing tools. And on the top left are your project settings and drawing modes. And on the top right up here is your export button. So let's first take a look at your brush toolbar, which is really one of your main ones. And it's a great place where you can have all of your brushes set up. You can tap that arrow on the left side to hide all those toolbars, and you can see that all of your brushes are set up there ready for you to use. And you can think of this as your pencil pouch where you have all of your different types of markers and pens ready for you to draw whenever you want to go. If you tap on one of them, you'll see that you have a whole range of options, everywhere from a technical pen, pencil, permanent marker, a watercolor brush, chisel, China marker, and a pastel. So you have a whole range of options there that range from very technical to very textural, and you can use those as you would with your drawing. So a special note is that the eraser is also one of those brushes. So if you're looking for a way to erase your lines, the eraser is one of the brushes and can be set up just like your drawing tools are in the rest of your pouch. I like to keep it at the top of my toolbar. That way it's handy and quick to use. So above that is your color selector. And what you can see is when you tap that, this color selector toolbar pops up, and you can scroll through these different swatches to pick different colors. You can also tap on the palette icon at the top of that toolbar, where you can see all different palettes that are preloaded in Morpholio Trace, everything from architecture, engineering, sustainable design, and on and on. And so you can tap one of these, hit the little button, and you can see on the left side, it's changing our setting up there. If you want to add your own custom color palettes, you can also tap the plus button up there, and you can see that now I have this new palette. You can tap on the title there to change it, and to add colors to this area, just tap colors down in the bottom left, and now you're brought to this custom color selector where you can use the sliders here, you can also input RGB codes, HSV codes, or number code to get specific colors that you're looking for. And when you're ready, you can just tap on any of the empty boxes at the bottom as you select your new colors. Super, super handy. If there are any colors that you don't want that you accidentally added, you can always tap and hold and then hit delete to remove that color from the palette. Now, when we go back to our palette selector again, you can see that the custom color palette is set up there and ready for you to go. If you want to remove this though, you can swipe left on it, tap delete, and then you've removed that palette from your palettes. So there's one more tool in this that's really special, which is the eyedropper tool. And you can see that this icon target shows up. And when we hit that one more time, when we move around, you can see that my color here is changing as I scroll over different colors on my drawing. So if you've drawn something, or let's say you're bringing a drawing from the computer and you want to match the color that's already on your drawing, you can just use this color selector to find the color. And when you've done, you can see that it's updated over there on the left. So again, find your color and it's updated on your color palette. So the next part of your brush toolbar that's really important is your line type selector, which is located right above the color. And you can see if you tap on that, there's 4 different options here. So some people get a little confused. The first option is actually your continuous brush option. So if we go over here, we zoom in and we draw something, you can see that we're getting a continuous line. We're getting a dashed line, a dotted line, and at the very end is your center line. So if you're looking for your continuous line again, remember it's the first one, and there you're drawing back with your continuous line. At the very top are undo and redo buttons, so we can remove those lines and then go back to our drawing here. So the very top button on your little toolbar here is your scale pen tool. And this is where you set the size of the brush that you want to use. And this tool is really incredible because it allows you to return to the line weights that you like to use in specific ones, but it also allows you to draw lines that are appropriate for the size of the zoom that you're at. So you can see when we zoom in to draw detail, it's shifting and offering us brushes that are most appropriate for this scale of the drawing. So we can zoom in here, draw some lines, and when we zoom out, you'll see that it's suggesting different line types. So maybe at this level, we wouldn't be drawing the details there, but we might be filling that whole area in, and we can use the thicker line weight to do that same type of drawing. Really, really helpful. Even when you zoom in, you can see that the bigger brush is still selected. This is just offering you different options that you are at there. So the last part of the scale pen is the opacity slider here. So if we reduce that down, you can see that our line that was opaque is now super transparent. And so there's a whole range, obviously, that you can get from within there. But it's another way to modify and to change your brushes and make them very specific to the way that you want your brushes to appear. So again, we'll just take those lines out. See, we have an extra line here, so I'll grab my eraser and make sure that I'm on a big enough brush for it. And I'll slide that off. Oop, we got the opacity way down. Turn the opacity up, and now that the line is erased. Okay, so that's everything you need to know about the brush toolbar. So now let's take a look at the layer toolbar, which is located over on the right side. So you can see here that your layers are obviously each here. If you tap on them, it will zoom automatically to that layer, which is a really, really helpful tool. If you're navigating around your drawing, you want to quickly get to a part, you can just tap on the layer and the screen will zoom to that layer. The other thing that's really important to know about layers is that you are always drawing on the topmost layer. So whatever layer is highest on your list is the layer that is active for your drawing. And so this works just like regular trace paper where you're stacking up layers. Same thing here, you're stacking up your drawing layers on the right side and you're drawing on your topmost layer. So we can navigate around here. The other thing to note is that if you tap and hold on a layer, you can change its order. So you can move it back and forth. You can move around. You can see that here we're changing the overlapping order when we move it back and forth, which is just a helpful thing if you are moving things around like that. You can also hide a layer, turn off its visibility by tapping the little eye, and you can see that we can turn those off and on. At the top are three really important buttons that allow you to add things into your drawing. The first thing that you can add is a new layer. So you can see when I tap that, now I have a new layer that's added, and you can see that it added it to the full size of the screen. If we zoom in, we can do the same thing and we can add a new layer, but again, it's the full size of the screen. So this time that layer is much smaller than the first one that we added. And this is really important because Trace is a raster-based program, so that means it works off of pixels. And so a thing to note is that each layer of Trace has the same number of pixels. So what that means is if you have a bigger layer, you have a lower pixel density. And if you make a smaller layer, you have a much higher pixel density. So you're able to draw with some of these really fine lines and get full clarity on the lines that you use because you're working with a smaller layer. Again, we can zoom out and in with the layer tapping on that. So the next button up here is the Add Image icon, and here you can add anything. This can be a drawing, a photo, a reference image, a mood board, whatever it is that you want to add into your drawing space, you can add that here. So you can add things from your library, from cloud storage. There's also a whole bunch of grids and other design templates that you can draw on top of, and you can use these as base layers. So let's go to our cloud storage here. We have a drawing of an office plan here. So what we'll do is add in this mood board that was made in morpholio board, and we'll bring that into drawing space here as a little bit of reference. So what you can see is that now we're in the space where we can resize this, we can change its orientation. And what I'm going to do is make it a little smaller. I'm going to use one finger to drag it over to the side here. And since I'm done, I'm going to hit the check. And now that image has been inserted into my drawing. Super, super helpful. And that could be anything. Again, you could bring in a drawing, a PDF, or an image there. So the next feature is the text feature. And this is great for adding in annotations, adding in notes or titles. So this is an office plan. So, or actually it's a library plan, I'm sorry, but it does have some office space. See if I can type here. Give me an autocorrect. Thank you, autocorrect. And then here you can see that we can change the color. So maybe we'll make it black. And you can also change the font into any preloaded fonts by Apple here. So we'll go find Helvetica. And when you're done, make sure that you tap back in your space here and then hit done to insert this text into your project. And what you can see is now we can pinch to scale it, and we can move it down here to add a title to our drawing. And again, that exists as its own layer as well. So now let's take a further look at some layer actions inside of the drawing. So we'll zoom to this layer here. We'll tap on the three buttons, and now you can see that the layer actions panel has been pulled up. What you can do here is you can change the title of the layer, so you can tap on it and change the title. You can also change the opacity of the layer from fully opaque to fully transparent or somewhere in between. You can change the layer color, so you can have the default yellow here, the canary yellow. You can go all white or all black, depending on how you want to draw. We'll reduce the opacity here. And then there's this other feature, which I'm going to tap out really quickly. We'll zoom into some lines here. And if we return to our project, our actions, you can see that there's an option called paper blending. If we tap on that, you can see that there are different ways that you can overlay your layer on top of your other drawings. So let's say you want to have your line work be visible, your kind of baseline work visible through your drawing. If you tap multiply, you can see that we can see both the chairs below it, but you can also still see that mark versus normal. So let's take a look at see normal and multiply. And so all these allow you different ways of blending your pages together. Really, really helpful tool. Okay, and then below that is a few different options. We'll zoom out again here. A few different options to manipulate your layer. So you can scale and place it, which will bring you to a place where you can move this layer around. You can do everything. If you like what you've done, you can hit the check. If you don't, you can hit the X, and your settings will be brought back to the original. You can also clear a layer, so that will remove all of the drawing that you've put on that layer. It will take it completely off. You can delete the layer, which will remove that layer from the project totally. Be careful of those two features, because once you do them, there's no way to undo them. So there are a couple of steps to protect from that, but just something to be aware of. You can also duplicate a layer, so you can make a copy of it in your project. You can lock it so you don't accidentally move it around your drawing space, and you can mirror it just like you would with regular trace paper, which is a really fun feature. But now let's take a look at the copy feature, which is a really, really special one. So if we hit copy on this layer, you can see that it's been added to the top of my layer toolbar. And if I return to my project page, I'm going to make a new project, and then you can see that that layer is still standing on top of your layer toolbar. If you tap it, it's been inserted into your new drawing. You can rescale it, or you can just leave it as it is, and now you can start drawing, building on your work in an iterative way, maybe in a new file, and continue your sketch. So this is a really helpful tool to bring one sketch from one project to another project really, really quickly, just like bringing your actual piece of trace and bringing it over to a different drawing. You can do that right within Morpholio Trace as well. So we'll return to our example plan, and now we'll take a look at our image actions, which are similar on the bottom to the drawing layer, but here you can see that there is, and we'll zoom over, we'll tap over to it. When we turn on our layer actions, you see it's similar, but it also has this image opacity slider. And this is really helpful. Let's say that we are sketching. We'll add a bigger one here. We're sketching some lines just to get a feel for what this table is maybe, but it's kind of hard to see that drawing, right? And this could happen with a plan. This could happen with another type of drawing, but this one it could be a photo as well. But now what you can do is you can move this slider down to reveal the drawing that is on top of your image, which is a really helpful way to, say, trace an idea and then sketch on top of it. And then you want to reduce the background to just see the drawing. So really helpful tool there. The last one that we're going to look at is the options for the text, which are also quite similar, except here you have the ability to edit text. So if we tap on that, you can see that we can change the font there. We can edit our text, change the color, change the font. And when we're done, just hit done. And you can see our changes are reflected there. All right. So the last thing that I'm going to show you about layers, which is really a cool thing, is remember how when we added a layer, it added a layer to the whole screen? Let's go to project settings and try something out. So if we go down, you can see in your project settings, so we went to the project page and tap the little gear bar there. Now let's take a look at what stack layers does. Right now it's toggled off. We'll turn it on, swipe that down, and we'll return to our example plan. Now, if we turn off our old layers and zoom out, it should before have made a full layer, but now you can see it's actually only making and only adding a layer to that's the size of our base layer. And this is a really, really great way to work with similar size layers. If you want to keep all of your layers the same consistent size, this is a really great way to be able to stack your drawings quickly and easily as you work if you prefer that style. Super helpful for drawing sets and other types of things like that. All right. The last thing that I'm going to show for layers is that there's one more setting. If we zoom in, you can see that there's this kind of drop shadow that exists around the layers. And if you like that, you can leave it on. But if you don't, you can go to project settings, which is the wrench, and then to preferences. And you can turn drop shadows off. So check out what happens as I turn that on and off. You can see how that pops up. And later on at the end, when I'm showing you some examples, I'll give an example of how that can be really helpful, especially for presenting drawings and creating kind of final products of them. So that's everything you need to know about your brush toolbar and about your layer toolbar. So now let's go back and let's take a look at a section. And what we're going to do is learn how to set our scale. So here we have this section drawing that is a really beautiful one. And we want to maybe know what the measurement of this wall is. But first we need to know what the whole scale of the drawing is. So one thing that we do have here is we know that we have a door, and in the US, in our imperial system, we know that that's about 3 feet. So if we go to our project settings, tap scale, and then set scale, we'll be brought to this screen here where we can actually input a certain scale. So we can move these crosshairs to a location with a known dimension. We can tap here, hit 3 feet. You can also change this to metric if you are working in metric, but we'll keep it in imperial for now. We'll hit the green check, and now you can see our scale is registered, which is really, really amazing. So let's see why that's so cool. So our scale tools are located up here at the top, which include the ruler, the triangle, and the protractor. And if we turn on the ruler now, and we move it over with one finger here, zoom in, you can see that the ruler is now measuring that door as 3 feet. So now what we can do is you can use this ruler, using 2 fingers to rotate around. We can move it over to our wall and measure that wall is about 16 feet. And now the whole drawing is able to be scaled and register that, which is really, really amazing way. This is super cool for sketching. If you're just doing a rough sketch and you want to start to understand what the scale is, you can quickly grab the scale of, say, a scale figure or another known dimension and then start to understand the actual scale of the whole sketch. Super cool. So the other thing to know about the ruler here is that if you are looking for a really subtle angle of like 1 or 2 degrees, if you rotate it back and forth a few times to unsnap it, you can then get a subtle angle of 1 or 2 degrees. Otherwise, it will just snap to 0. Up here is a little button that is helpful while you're drawing with the ruler, which allows you to rotate 90. And the way that the ruler works when you're drawing is that you can simply snap to it and it will draw you a perfectly straight line. Now this is helpful. Obviously the rest of Trace is kind of a freehand, but this is a way that you can, these are obviously super thick lines, so we'll use our scale pen to find one that's more appropriate. And you can see that we can then draw straight lines perfectly exact and take measurements of those different areas that we want to draw. All right, so let's look at the scale triangle. So very similar, has the scale pen or the scale on it. As we zoom in and out, it's offering us more appropriate measurements. But up here, it works just like an adjustable triangle where we can change the angle of it. Again, it works where we snap and draw straight lines along that triangle, which is really helpful. And again, we can tap this button up here to rotate it around 90 degrees, which is really great. All right. So the last scale tool that we'll look at is the protractor. And this is a really powerful tool, obviously, to help us draw circles. So if we want to draw the sun over here, we can simply bring it over and we can draw a circle around it, which is cool. But it also is scaled, so we can use it to draw specific dimensions of things too. So if we want a circle that is 20 feet, we can try to get it right here, or we can go up to the top and tap either the diameter or the radius. So if we want the diameter to be 20 feet, we just tap in 20, hit the green check, and now the protractor super quickly is scaled to give us a circle that is exactly 20 feet in diameter. You can do the same thing in radius. You can change this from feet to inches. And if you want to change the dimension here to metric, you have to go back to your project settings to scale, and you can change the units here from imperial to metric. And you can see that reflected then on your protractor. So the last thing that's really special about the protractor is that it's not only great for drawing circles, it also allows you to draw ellipses. So you see these little yellow dots around here, and if you pull on them, suddenly you are drawing an ellipse, which is really, really cool. So quick, easy way to create an ellipse that is the size that you want to do it. Let's say we want to modify this a little bit, make it a little more round. We can really quickly do that using the ellipse tool. When you're done and you want to get back to your protractor, your complete circle, just double tap the tool and boom, you're back to your circle, back to your scale, and you can input and continue to draw perfect circles. So those are the scale features, the ruler, triangle, protractor, really, really helpful, amazing dynamic tools. And since you've been watching this, I'll just drop a little preview. We have a really special update coming to these three features that we'll be announcing in the coming weeks. It's a feature that you have been asking for a lot, and that's all I'm going to say for now. You guys can speculate about what that might be, but it's coming soon. It's going to be a supercharge of our scale tools, starting with our ruler, which is the first one that's going to be released. So be on the lookout for that, but it is coming. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to take a look at is how to organize our projects down here. So the first thing is that all of our projects are here. You can move them around if you want by just tapping and holding on it and then dragging it around to change the order. You can also tap select here to do some really amazing things. So the first thing is that you can select one, and then down at the bottom you see that these options become alive. So you can duplicate this project, you can copy it, you can export it, and this is a really special one, the export button, because what this allows you to do is you can save this file as a morpholio trace file, and you can share it with another trace user. So they can get your project file with all the layers, all the drawings, all the images that you might have saved in it, and they'll be able to continue editing and drawing in that same file that you have started and created, and you can share things back and forth, just like you would with a Photoshop file, for example. So if we select two of these projects, now what we can do is we can tap the group button, and you can see that that they were put into a folder, and now we can label that folder. Drawings, cool. So now you can see our label is updated there. Again, when you're in this select mode, you can also tap on one of the titles and change the name of the project file as well. And if we go into this folder, you can see that these two projects are there, and we can again rearrange them. Or if we accidentally added this one, we can drag it over here to this back arrow, and now you'll see that it's been added back into the folder here. Again, if we want to add other drawings, we just drag them over and drop them in. You can also add folders by tapping this icon over here. We can label this drawings 2. And now you can see that the project folder was added there as well. And so that's pretty much it. That is the project page. And that is everything. So the last thing that we're going to look at now is a few special features that are hidden within the app from the eye, at least. So if we tap on the example plan here one more time, let's take a look at some cool tricks. So the first one that I'm going to show you has to do with layers. So we know that we can go under these layer actions and scale in place to move a layer around, but you can also use 3 fingers to do exactly that as well. So just like regular paper, you can grab your sheet with 3 fingers to move it around. Say if you're trying to rearrange a plan and trying to figure out where a piece of furniture might fit or something like that, just use 3 fingers to move it around. Now let's say that I've done this, but I actually want to move it back to its original location. Not a problem. Take 2 fingers, which allow you to undo actions. So if we tap with 2 fingers, we have relocated our page back to its original place. Maybe we want to move it back. We can use 3 fingers to undo that action. And 2 fingers to move it back. And the same thing works with lines that are drawn. So if we've drawn these lines, we can use 2 fingers to quickly undo them and 3 fingers to quickly redo them. Super, super helpful gesture there. The next one that I'm going to show is the hide toolbars one. And if you watched the Architecture Hunter drawing session that we did last week, you'll know this one already. But if you use 4 fingers, you can tap the screen and hide all of your toolbars. This is really great for presentation mode, or if you have your pencil set up, you're ready to go and ready to draw, and you don't want the toolbars in the way, you can easily use this to hide all of that. Then to get back, you can tap the show toolbar icon, and again, 4 fingers, hide all the toolbars. Super, super helpful. All right, so those are a few of the hidden gestures that exist within Morpholio Trace, and pretty much everything that you need to know to get started with your first drawing. So we'll bring it back here. Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining for that. We're really excited that you all could come along for that journey. And if you are just starting Trace, I hope that helped illuminate some of the kind of basic introductory features of the app to be able to start your drawing. So question, what iPad I'm using? I'm using the iPad Pro, the 3rd generation one, which is the one that we recommend, and the Apple Pencil 2, which is compatible with that device. That's what we recommend. It works on any iPad or iPhone though as well. The iPad Pros though give you a bit better performance, a bit better speed when you're working, a bit higher export quality, as well as import quality. So that's the one that we recommend. Cool. Thank you all so much for joining. We always love seeing what you're up to with your drawings. So please feel free to share those on Instagram, tag us at Morpholio, and use the hashtag Morpholio Trace in the caption, and we would be happy to reshare and repost. Cool. All right. Thank you everyone for joining. If you have other questions, feel free to DM us, reach out to us, community@morpholioapps.com, and I will respond and get back to you with your answers. But for the meantime, stay safe, practice your social distancing, washing your hands, and take care, everyone. Bye.